host of Makers and Movers, the podcast where we talk with manufacturing leaders, makers and movers who make a difference in making things. Today, I'm excited to have as my guest Christopher Valiante. I'm hoping he will correct the pronunciation there.
Yes,
He's the CEO and founder of Bloke NYC. So, Christopher, thank you for joining us today.
absolutely. Thank you for having me. I do usually people can't get me to shut up, but you've actually asked me to talk, so this is new.
Well, I'm happy to have you, and I'm happy to hear about your story and the things that you've done over the years. So, why don't you start out by just telling us about Bloke and how it came about?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I can tell you a brief backstory, and then I'll get into like the real deal. So I got my start out in Australia and New Zealand. I started from the ground up as just a salesperson, and then I started putting my design skills into it. One day I was sitting at the dinner table with my brother, and my brother and I couldn't be more different. And he said, "Can I talk to you?" I even looked up like, "Me? You sure?" And he said, "Let me ask you a question." He said, "So you design these fragrances in a lab for this brand?" I said, "Yep." He said, "And then you design the packaging?" I said, "Yep." He goes, "And then you send it to them and they make it overseas?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Then they send it back to you and you market and PR it and sell it?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Are you stupid?" And that's when I realized, yeah, you know what? I can do this on my own. And it's a matter of kind of, there was only missing one element. So with Bloke, I had this really great idea of different things that I learned over the years in different labs, and I did a few things. I'll start with the fragrances. So the fragrances for Bloke, I I added synthetic pheromones to them to make people a little bit more addicted to them. And it's funny because I remember even in the beginning, people would be spraying a cologne on themselves and they'd be like, wow, this is really good. I really like it. So tell me a little bit about, where you're going, what stores is it? And they didn't even know they were doing it. They just kept smelling there. It was so funny to watch, even with the candles. They'd be like picking them up in mid conversation, like with not even realizing they were doing it. And then what I did with the fragrances were, I don't make, and as you guys, get to know the sort of insides and outs about me is I don't make things just to make them. Everything I do has a story behind it and a really well thought out reason. And with Bloke, I started out with 6 fragrances, and each fragrance is named after a real person and a place. And some of my best clients know this right away, and a lot of people don't know this is that they are all ex-boyfriends and where I met them, and it was my way of sort of being like, "You dumped me, but look what I did." So
Your
it was
ultimate revenge.
that's what I do with the fragrances. What I did with the skincare was I made everything 2 in 1, and I phrased it dual, but I spelled it DUEL, like I challenge you to a duel to go with the whole motif. And the idea behind that, what I did was I was looking at some of these super lines at the time, Jack Black, LabCorp, different things like that, and they're huge sellers, and they had a lot of SKUs, different types of things, anti-aging this, and under eye this, and stopped and I thought about the average man, and I stopped and said, if my father or brother wouldn't use this, don't make it. So I just kind of kept it sort of, the everyday Joe guy who is aware that they need something extra, but doesn't want to go through all those steps. I don't even want to go through all those steps. So that's what I had done with Bloke. And within 3 months of being on the shelf, I made New York Times Best New Product. And then 3 months after that, I was on MSNBC's Entrepreneurs to Watch.
Wow.
And yeah, and things kept getting really like interestingly big. And like, one thing I want to come across right away and say this is that, I am just a simple boy from New Jersey. I'm nobody. I don't have connections to celebrities. I don't, but it started happening naturally over time. And like I said, it wasn't like my niece went to school with Paris Hilton. It wasn't like that. It was just me being me, and just that's about
We
it.
spoke previously. You had a few different mentors, and you mentioned one already that you felt had really influenced where you've gone with your
Yeah.
career. Can you just talk briefly about some of those mentors?
So yeah, so like I said, there Craig's a big one. I think with Craig Sweetoffer, he has this talent where you know, he's good at a little bit of everything, where I have things that I absolutely excel at and things that I'm awful at. So I don't have I have my hand on a lot of cookie jars, but not all of them. And Craig really showed me sort of more of the business angle of it instead of just the creative side, which is what I knew. And now in doing my new line, Abizione Valiante, you know, it it required me to start doing some of the things that I was uncomfortable doing because nobody else was going to do them. So this line is very special to me. You want me to start talking about Abizione Valiente, or you want me to
Sure.
continue?
If we wanted to talk about it, so now's a good time since
Yeah,
since
I'll
you've
say
mentioned it.
yeah. As you know, I just mentioned that I was doing Bloke, and all the fragrances were done on X's, and sort of this like revenge scenario kind of a thing. And then I finally down, and I got married to like the absolute love of my life, Victor. On our honeymoon, and it was right before the pandemic hit, and um, we were married for a week. We were stuck in Cairo, and we were all over the place. And we got back home. We didn't even have our suitcases in the house yet. We actually were in the driveway, and he said, "I'm really sorry. I can't do this. I don't love you. I don't want to be married to you." And I realized once everything sort of got stripped from me. The emotions and the feelings, and really who came out to support me the most, it was family. So I stopped the sort of you know ex-boyfriend thing, and I started this line called the Bizione Valiente, which means just home in Italian. And it tells the story of a journey, uh all the different places that I've been, and the fragrances that I picked up from them, but how no matter what, I always wanted to come home. And family's like the only thing that you kind of have sometimes in life, where if you want to come back, they have to take you. So
They don't always have to.
they don't have to, but they do. So but I so the thing about this line, and there's actually it's a there's a lot of fragrances, but it's small SKUs. There's candles, diffusers, um, room sprays, and some candle gift sets that are fabulous. At the um, at the moment, they're still 49% up for grabs. Once that gets done, then you guys will probably see this hit the shelves within the next less than 6 months, I would say. Um, but what I did was something that nobody has ever done before in home fragrance. Um, and I came to the conclusion that even if I was terrible at my job, if I sucked at my job, people were going to at least buy my stuff one time just to see what's so different, and why is he the first person to do this. So what I did was I created all my fragrances with animalics. They are synthetic animal pheromones. We don't actually use animals anymore. I believe they did maybe, I don't know, 30 years ago. Obviously, we don't do cruelty to animals and stuff like that. So they're synthetic copies. I mostly use the civet cat. These fragrances are so unique, and you just they boom. And I did that on purpose because I always say, if you're going to spend a lot of money on a candle or a diffuser or a room spray, it better do what it says it's going to do, or you are essentially burning money. And with mine, they're almost like noxious. You're like, whoa, that's okay. I get it. I smell it.
There is a direction I'd love to go. There's so much emotion behind your scents, right?
Yes.
There's so much. There's such a big part of you that goes into building these scents. Could you explain to us a little bit of that process? How do you translate that emotion into these wonderful products?
So ever since I was a kid, um, I play 7 instruments, and I write music and I write poetry, and everything just flows out of me like a poem, especially when I'm trying to create. And you can see that in a difference from what I've done versus somebody who's fortunate enough that they had a lot of money and they were like, hey, let's do a line. Where me, it's hey, I have all this great great stories to tell people, like a storyteller. One thing that I also do that is very, very, very important to who I am as a person and who I am as a designer is there's two things I do. One, I only work with people that feel like family. In my hometown of Lyndhurst, New Jersey, 5 years ago, I changed the laws in Lyndhurst for the LGBT community, where we actually celebrate Pride Month, and I we're self-supported through our own contributions. So um, everybody on Positively Lyndhurst, which is a Facebook group, they'll start donating money to me, and I organize this giant party for mostly geared towards children. I mean, there's stuff for adults too, but I try to encourage the anti-bullying with children. So there's food. I get them carnival rides, whatever is in the pot at the end of the day, like whatever money I can afford to spend. And we did it. We changed laws. To people who don't know me or don't know my work, I never make a mistake or an accident. If you see one, it's actually on purpose. Like I said, the Bloke products of Dual, they might say, wow, you spelled Dual wrong. No, I didn't. I spelled it exactly how I wanted it to be spelled. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So there are no accidents. It's really well thought out.
Okay. Well, thank you, Christopher. It's been so interesting speaking with you. You've had an interesting journey. I love how parts are parts of you are in every product
Absolutely.
that you make. Is there what's next for you besides this new line? Is there anything else coming down the pike for you?
Well, you know what I'm very big in doing? Again, it always goes down to me being like small time boy. There's a couple things. So one, um, I want to go on tour with the line. What I mean when I say go on tour is, I usually hire about 100 reps, most like other brands do as well. But what I notice other brands are guilty of is that they only go to on the road with their reps in, like, just say New York or Los Angeles, and that to me is so wrong. Where I go to Iowa or Kansas or wherever, because you got to show everybody love. Like, you can't just be like, well, I'm going to go to the hot spots, because I'll tell you what, some of these places just say, like, I don't know, let's say Laura's gift shop in Alabama. Laura's gift shop in Alabama could be selling $20,000 worth of your product a week because they need your product to keep the lights on. Whereas a Bloomingdale's or a Nordstrom's, you know, it's great to be in there, but they're not desperate to get your stuff out there. And I feel that I owe it to myself and I owe it to my customers to show up, like I said, in these remote places and remote locations. And they're the best times. I meet some of the greatest people I think I've ever met in my life doing some of that stuff. So yes, I am planning a tour when this is all ready. And a couple other things I'm planning. I have a women's line in the mix that's um, pretty much done, but I want to focus right now on Edizione Valiante and see if I can solidify that in the market. And then I'll move forward with the women's line as well, and then kind of revamp Bloke up because I'm getting a lot of calls about it, and I'm like, okay, okay, okay. I'm like, I just was trying to do this thing, but I'll jump back to that. I will, I promise. So,
That's what happens when you have products in a line that people really like.
but I think, like I said, I think it really boils down to is you can tell by my work that I'm not, I'm gonna go for the cuss. I'm not full of shit. Like, everything that I've done, it is really, like you said, it is a part of me. You know what I mean? So when people read something or smell something, it invokes this history, like an empath almost, like you can feel it. And you say, oh my God, so this is what he was going through. Even in the Bloke catalogs, there's this I don't have one on me now, but there's the pretty pictures and da 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 da, and then writing, but then very faintly in like the babyest blue you could ever think of, there's writing in script, and you almost can't make it out. But when you do and you look for it, what it actually is excerpts from my diaries and journals about
Wow.
the people. Yeah, like just sharing, like I said, the real thing. Why is this this? Well, this is why, and so.
That's so powerful. It
Right.
really is a piece of you and everything that you make and you sell.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I like I said, I'm very fortunate. I always say that there are two when people meet me, I always say there's two types of people. People that get the joke and people that don't. If you don't get the joke, you won't like me at all.
Mm.
But if you understand, who I am and where I'm coming from, and we'll be friends for life. And it's just a matter of, like even my mom will say sometimes, my mom's my best friend. My mom, um, my mom will say to me, "Ah, you sound like you're bragging there. Don't say that." I'm like, because you don't get it. I'm like, like I'm not bragging. I'm the same guy. Like, okay, so yeah, I landed. Back in the day, I did the signature fragrance for Amy's Tacos, Bungalow 8. Um, but you know what? After, hanging out with cool people, I got to meet Tony Danza and Woody Harrelson. And then I walked outside the nightclub and tripped over my own shoelace. That is me. You know what I mean? So, I'm only, I was like, I'm only this cool to ride this ride. Like after a while, I go back to my nerdy Columbo self, listening to like Fiona Apple and relaxing and that kind of thing.
Well, thank you. And I think we're out of time now, but
Start
I think I
too.
could talk to you all day. You have so many interesting stories.
Oh, you
So,
have no idea. Wait till we'll come back when this starts coming out, and then I'll really get into some dirty stuff because I was asked to do a book, and I started it with a writer, and I just felt that's even too personal for me. So we'll see if that's going to still happen. But
all
yeah,
right. Well, I'm sure we'll hear a lot more from you and a lot more of your products.
yes. Well,
So thank you so much,
thank
Christopher.
you so much for having me. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
It was my pleasure, and I'm really appreciate that you came and spent the time with us. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up this episode. This is Andrea Hoffer with Makers and Movers, and I will see you next time.